Call the Tuesday, March 14, 2023 meeting of the Municipal Airport Authority to order. Those of you that are joining us by Zoom, welcome. And if you could mute your microphones until you talk, that's always fun. Talk the first minute and we won't tell you you're muted. We'll go from there. And Eric's checked in, everybody can hear us. Any problems at all? All right. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of February 28th?
Motion. Second.
Call roll.
Hagan.
Aye.
Lind.
Aye.
Captain.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, motion to approve the airport vouchers totaling $297,298.39.
Motion.
Second.
I second.
Motion and second. Call roll, please.
Hagan.
Aye.
Lind.
Aye.
Captain.
Aye.
Ekman.
Aye.
Aye. Do I have a motion to approve the individual vouchers on your agenda, item A through 8? Aye.
Motion to approve A through I. Second.
Have a motion and second. Call roll, please.
Hagan.
Aye.
Lind.
Aye.
Captain.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Item number 4, we have the February 2023 passenger report.
Yeah, the second busiest February, of course, the busiest was when we had 29 days in the month, a little over 43,000. So to have that many passengers in 28 days was pretty good. So another busy February. So it's just an FYI receiving file.
Okay. How many did we miss the record by?
1,000 some, I guess, or maybe
Well, like
100,000, but we had 29 days.
You sure you had a good count?
Considering the weather,
Yeah. All right.
cancellations.
Item number 5 there, the review of the financial information. Again, we're just trying to work on shortening this up a little bit.
Jamie is on from Balance Tax and Accounting.
All right.
Questions? At least I think I saw Jamie on there. There she is.
The attempt here is to get this down to one page to give us where we are, actual where we are in relation to budget, and then what we're looking at going forward in the budget. So this is just working with account 561, and to kind of bring this into a more of a dashboard type look. We're just working with 2022 at this point. Once we get this finalized, then we will do this month by month in 2023 as we look through this. Kind of looking back here, 2022 was 16.6 million in income and operating accounts there. A $10 million budget. So there were a couple items in there. Intergovernmental revenue jumped up a little bit. Any comments on that, Sean?
Yeah, it's just that we chatted about that at the last meeting, with just the timing of grants, was the biggest part of it.
Okay, and then the other one is the rental fees. We talked about parking today, is that part of the rental there?
You're correct, yeah, as we mentioned at the last meeting, car rental revenue along with parking revenue was substantially higher. They budgeted, I think, the minimum for car rentals, and we budgeted a couple million in parking revenue. And of course, we're doing this in June of 2021, we're trying to anticipate in 2022. So we err on the side of caution with what expectations were for passenger growth. Obviously, passenger traffic quicker than expected.
And then you'll see it, 8.7 was the actual, 4.6 was the 2022 budget. And 2023, we're targeted at 8.3. As we get this firmed up, we'll be able to kind of see how we're tracking to that at this point. So as you go down, and again, these are just summary accounts now, just picking up the expense items. Might help us here in the little accounting mysteries that we have. But as we go down to 950.79, asset reclassification, can you give us a 101 on why we're doing asset reallocation and depreciation in there?
Yeah, the asset reclassification actually is the cost associated with fixed assets or construction in process during the year. So when invoices come in for projects or fixed assets, those are getting coded directly to expense line items within the accounting ledger. But then at the end of the year, we say, hey, what assets did we purchase this year? What do we have for construction in process? And we move that off in that account to the balance sheet. We're basically just following how they've done it in the past. And then also, it was actually a question that the auditors asked when we met with them. I can't remember if it was last June or maybe August. It's easier for them on the audit side when they see those in the expense accounts and then they come out like we're doing it. So that's basically what it is. That this year there was $8.2 million, get my the right one, moved from expenses that were capitalized to assets. I think a lot of it this year is construction in process.
Mr. Chair, a question, is the process such that as we go through the grant process, this has to be done and then changed afterwards, just for tracking purposes? Is that the rationale?
Yes.
So it is purely done this way because of the grant or possible grant reimbursement? Okay.
So when we look at the 8.2 million, the 8.2 million is items that have run through the income statement as an expense and now are being reversed back out. Okay. That's a unique way to approach it. But, net result then as we look at this for the year is that net income of 13.1 million. Our budget was 10.5 million, which really was sort of a shot in the dark. And going forward in 2023, we're forecasting a $4 million net income. If there are any questions on any of these, you've got in your packet, they're kind of the backup material that gives more detail here. And if there's any additional detail that you'd like, we'd certainly be happy to do that.
The biggest difference with the 4 million is that we've, for the most part, exhausted our drawdowns from CARISA and our ARPA grants. I think there's only 200,000 left in ARPA to draw down the day-to-day operational costs. So the thing that's still out there, and we don't know if we'll get the money this year, and I know Jamie, the auditor, spent some time chatting about this, and I did as well, is we have about 14 million left in our CARES grant. Well, if we're able to submit a development addendum with the approval of the FA for the Exit Plaza, the East Economy Lot, the security system upgrade, and a whole host of other projects, we'll have a $14-some million windfall right now. And the debate was with the auditors is if we set that up as a accounts receivable. But there's so much uncertainty, they decided not to. Jamie, I don't know if you have any update on that after talking with Bryce and the team?
I don't, we didn't talk about that or anything. I mean, we discussed it, but no further conversation on it. I had basically the same conversation was, it's not certain at this point. So right now it's not gonna be added.
One thing we did just discuss at the conference was the CARES money has got to be allocated and spent or it'll be gone.
The problem is we can't draw it down until we incur the expense. Now, we've incurred a lot of project costs, but yet we're not allowed to move forward with the development addendum until Bismarck says move forward with it. So, Jeff, we have the list together. It's just waiting for the green light to do it. And we'll probably move faster once the Exit Plaza is done and 100% final payments are done, along with the East Economy Lot and the security system. When those three projects are completed and final payments are given to the contractors, I think we're in a much better position to move forward with that development addendum. Although there's still some Bismarck questions that they have of the region at headquarters to ensure that the addendum is done correctly. So it's a timing issue once again, but I'm hopeful that we complete the drawdown by December 31st. We'll see.
When those funds, nice to have, but they do sort of throw trends and things off as we work through that. I think we'll be able to, I hope, 2 other accounts that will put in the same format, but hopefully we can work towards this a little quicker dashboard. And then each meeting just have a quick little review of where we're tracking, where things might be.
So if you want something amended for this dashboard, and I know other members kind of want to see all the details, but if there's something you want done, please mark that up, we'll give it to Jamie and her team, and they'll try and create whatever object you want to see in terms of the financials, so continue to mark those up and we'll adjust.
Okay. SP Plus lease extension.
Gregory Pearson is here. Greg, if you want to.
Come on up.
Sure.
We don't have a point for the position.
Thanks for the chair, it's very cool.
Thank you for coming up.
Well, thank you for having me, appreciate the time, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. So part of our agreement is set up in a way to where our contract goes to the end of this year, but leading up to the fiscal year, which starts in July of this year, we have to come to you and decide if we want to keep a management agreement or transition back to a lease agreement. And so with this extension request, 5 years, we're also suggesting that we keep it as a management agreement based off the revenue trends that we just talked about, based off the parking rate increases and things of that nature. So just looking back at some of the things we brought to the Hector International Airport over the last few years, reservations is on this campus now throughout the entire parking facilities. We did a rate analysis back in September of last year. You guys approved to implement that in October. We've seen revenue nearly double since the implementation of the parking rate increases. And with that, we also want to do some additional improvements as well, which are in your folder. So if you look to the right side of your folder, Spirit Remote is a system that we're looking to go live with in May of this year. We actually had the installers Flash on site this week to assist with installing that, but the weather didn't agree a little bit. So we're waiting on some a little better time to install some of these community intercoms. But essentially, what will happen is your passengers will pull up, press the button for the intercom system. And if they're not able to successfully reach the local office because our folks are out in the field helping passengers, it'll automatically roll over to our Austin, Texas call center. And if it doesn't roll over there, it automatically rolls to our Chicago call center. So we have 2 layers of redundancy. That way we're making sure the passengers get the help, the assistance they need. Obviously with these new products that we're rolling out, such as reservations and things of that nature, making sure that they understand how to get in the lot, how to get out of the lot, and how to make sure that they navigate by the parking space now that they have new lots and parking products as well. With that as well, we have on the left side of your folder an on-demand solution as well that we'll look to do on a seasonal basis potentially. Obviously, we ran into some situations where the lots are full or at capacity, and so this allows us to leverage QR codes and allow them to pay for their parking experience that way as well. And this doesn't require any gates, any investment, any capital infrastructure, anything like that. It's just simply us putting a QR code out in the lot, policing it, and making sure that we have the appropriate signage to let folks know that if they don't pay, these are the consequences for not making that payment, so to speak. So that'll be all done from a person's phone, and it's all touchless and frictionless as well. In addition, we also see a business card as well in the folder. We intend to pass these out as you exit out of the parking facility. We're going to start this immediately. It's twofold. It's to get more exposure to the reservation product or the prepaid product, I should say. And we're going to start to use those terms interchangeably. That way it's less confusing to the passenger. So it'll direct you directly to the website where you can make your reservation in advance. And then if you flip the card over, it'll also assist with directing you to the parking lot that has availability and capacity for you to park in. And so this is something that we've done in other locations that's proven to be successful. And so it's just another way to kind of get more exposure to the East Economy parking lot when we have those capacity constraints and things of that nature.
How will you hand these cards out? How will you know?
Twofold, it'll be as you exit, that way the next time you come through, if you're not able to get space in the lot that you parked in, long-term or short-term, you can be aware that the East Economy is an option. That's
So-
for that one side.
So a person will hand them off?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I
So they have to
cashier.
go through the one that's manned?
That is correct. But we'll also have folks at the entrances when we close the lots. That way we can pass them out and direct you to the East Economy lot. Because right now we're doing that, but we're kind of having to give them verbal directions.
So people are gonna be manning the lots that are full?
Right now, when they close the lots, they're assisting folks because when they press the intercom button, they have to come out and help some that come in with reservations. Because when a lot is closed, it's still not closed for a reservation or for a prepay. So, yeah. And then the last but not least, we're looking at doing a parking guide on the website. And this will give us the ability to display occupancy. So that way you can see it as a percentage of each lot. And so that's something that we would actually oversee and maintain. So that way we're taking that burden off of Link Group, who currently hosts and manages your website today. It'll be just nested in the parking page. And then the last part of that is we can also sell Google advertisements specific to parking, not specific to the entire airport's website. So that way when folks just go and do a Google search of parking, they'll be directed directly to the Edgar International Airport parking page. So I digress. I just wanted to kind of share with you some of the initiatives that we have planned. Obviously, you talking about ramp and parking garage and things like that. So we definitely have played a small role in some of those analyses and play that role as we continue to evaluate those opportunities and options. So I'll open it up for any questions.
So the request is for a 6-month extension, July 1 through December 31, and then a 5-year extension beyond that.
That's
I
correct.
would hope that you would support for them. They're doing a great job for us. And with the transition to the new parking and revenue system that we put in with Flash, they've gained a lot of experience with that. And we're still in that transition with the exit plaza and the technology. It's wise for you to request.
Mr. Chair, Sean, how many spaces are we going to recapture when they clean out the existing exit?
100 some, Jeff?
160.
160 additional spaces.
Okay. And then I've been through a lot in the past couple weeks. How much space do we lose in the wintertime when people pull in and park so that their door opens all the way up and they don't want to get blocked in? Are we losing 20%, 15%, or you guys should know that, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's hard to say because sometimes when they do that as well, they also park in spaces that aren't spaces.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Spaces as well that way. So I would say 10, somewhere in that range, but it's hard to say because like you said, sometimes they double park, but then sometimes they create parking spaces.
So I think one day last week, we were at 105% capacity.
Right. The entire month of February, actually, we're over 100% on average.
So people just
compared
parking
to-
wherever.
Right, that just means they're pulling, we have more tickets coming in than leaving out, so.
Yeah. And there are, barrels up, there's no parking signs,
They
there's no
move.
parking in front of no parking signs, so what
We're trying
happens
to catch a
is,
flight,
to
yeah.
facilitate snow removal, we towed a bunch of vehicles yesterday, to move them out of the way, and then try and put them into open spots. We're gonna absorb that cost, but it is what it is,
another question with respect to exiting, the electronic exiting or the no attendant exiting. If cars line up, say 6 cars are lined up and there is an action in like 3 or 4 minutes, does the gate just open and let that person pass through where there's a stall? Or is there something in place to not bottleneck traffic going out? Now, we have a nice new plaza for exit. The last thing we need is 25 cars
Few
backed up.
lines, Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whether there's 2 or what, if there's an issue with the first car, the domino effect, nobody else can act. So is there a way to make sure that first car, regardless, they come up in queue, in 1 minute they're gone, regardless, because that makes us look bad?
Sure, so the staff that's in that cashier lane, obviously, if they're not, processing anybody, they're supposed to be paying attention to that lane to make sure that we don't have that queue occurring.
What if there's nobody present and it's all remote? What if there's all auto attendant?
We have somebody in the cashier lane at all times, so
Okay.
that's covered up until the last arrival, let's say that.
Okay.
After that, RMS again will be present all day. So that intercom option, when you press
The
that button,
rollover will be,
they have the ability to open a gate.
Okay.
You can do everything like you're physically here,
Good.
even though they're in Austin.
with no snow.
Actually, it's
Currently.
in Austin in January for one day.
One of the other things we're trying to do is to clarify and be more consistent in the terminology that's on social media and through the press releases we're doing. And I know the Flint team is on here, at least there's a few from Flint, and that's still a work in progress. So someone prepays for their parking online, they believe that they have a reservation for a specific spot. We talked about this the other day. We do have premium reserved reservations, so you pull into the lot, there's an area in the long-term lot that has a sign, premium reserved. Okay, so some people do enter the lot with a prepaid thinking that it's reserved, here's where I park. That's not the case. When you prepay, you have a spot that is open someplace in the lot, not a designated reserved spot. So there's kind of confusion between prepay, I have a reservation, versus I've prepaid, so I have a spot someplace, and they manage that inventory based on their reservations to make sure there's enough open spots. When people are driving around, hey, the lot's closed, but there's 20 open spaces, it's because they're holding those for people that have prepaid.
That's right.
Okay?
Yeah, we get a report each morning that tells us who's coming into each lot from a prepaid standpoint.
Your website's a little confusing, because on the premium, it shows the area you can park as premium.
Right.
If you go to just the prepaid lot, it shows the whole lot available, nothing marked off.
Gotcha.
So then we started towing cars from the premium area. And I think people were upset because if you've just gone into the site and prepaid, it doesn't tell you within that, there's another subsection.
So we're working with our third-party integrator, Capu, to add language to the booking confirmation email as well. It'll be right near the QR code where it simply says, that you have a space in the lot, but not a specific space. But to your point, we're also going to carve out the area on the map that matches what you have actually reserved. It's less confusing, similar to how you do with premium reserved lots.
How are you monitoring if the person is parking in the right spot? Like when you
So we
said
don't
that
have
you're
to do
towing
that for
some
premium
cars?
reserve. Otherwise, if you're parking in the right lot, you're fine. Because your QR code only works on the lot that you have reserved.
So when the car is left in that premium reserve spot, is there something to indicate that?
License plate
Yeah, license plate.
number.
Oh, just
Yeah,
license
yeah.
plate.
Yeah, when you make a
Okay.
reservation, you have to put all that information, yeah, I apologize, yes.
So you said we were towing for snow removal too?
They have to, otherwise there's no possible way for the master to get through with their blades as big as they stay. They tow them to a different spot. Those are self-inflicted by the people that are parking. And, in some cases, they have collected the towing fee. In other cases, like yesterday, now we decided that we'll just absorb that cost just because it's busy and the capacity and trying to do the right thing.
Were people notified then that their car was towed or put in a different spot?
What is the process? So they come out and look.
Yeah, they come out, they again, intercom us or come to the exit plaza, and then we let them know where the vehicle is going to be located. We've already relocated it.
So we can't run license numbers and give names and call people. It's just part of the learning process.
I was just looking last night on the Valley News Live comments, and there was a few people that had said, they were frustrated because they came out to look for their car, couldn't find it, and I understand, especially if they're cold or hauling a suitcase and looking for their car, and like that process, like how could we help the people who are parking there know when their car is being located?
Sometimes they give a list to the security guards, so they come in, they ask, and say, okay, your car is towed over to this location. So,
Mr. Chair, we have a prepay down in the bottom here. Can that prepay be set up to do the same call to, to an attendant?
Yeah, we can look at integrating and putting an intercom there. That's a good point. The panel put machine right by the escalators, so you can call from in the terminal in the action lane and have that conversation that you would have out in the field, etc. Let me look into that.
I can understand why people would be frustrated, you come in after a trip and you go to your car and you can't find it.
Public relations hit here on parking.
Yeah. The other thing that I did notice is, I know that there's a customer service number that you can call for assistance at MSD parking. And some people had commented that they didn't get a reply or any.
So busy times of the year like this, unfortunately, like if they're on the call, they have two lines, so it will open to the second line as well. If you have two calls active at the same time, then you have to call back. the person that calls. We can see who called, and sometimes we do run into that a little bit. I was actually out here riding around with the team all day yesterday, and we actually got an email compliment last night, which I'll definitely share with everybody. I know we had like you just mentioned, some concerns recently, but we literally shoveled a person out of the snow. We do that all the time, but this particular situation, we actually relocated the vehicle, or assisted them to relocate. They had it ready for them. The vehicle was warmed when they got here, and they just was ecstatic, and she reached out to us and just said thank you again for that. It's just a case of, can we accommodate every single passenger? No, we can't, unfortunately. It's just a challenge that we face, and not just in this market, but any market where the weather is as brutal as it's going to be sometimes. So.
There was a 24, 36-hour period a couple of weeks ago where the CenturyLink line was down. So until CenturyLink got here, there was no communication.
Now with the new Exit Plaza, we are transitioning to voice over IP. That's a little more reliable phone service, so to speak. It travels through the internet, and it gives us a little flexibility to where we have multiple locations where we can answer the call from. So that should help with those calls. But a lot of times when the flight lands, depending on how many people park on that flight, you can't get inundated with calls. So. But we're looking to make sure that this time next year, we have the staffing as well to make sure that we can accommodate the nature of those requests.
Yeah, I think we did get a little hammered on,
Well, I mean-
not just by snow, but by some
It's too
feedback
bad
that wasn't very
that
complimentary.
we fail on the last 2 yards before the finish line. People coming back. And the bad experience happens right at the end, which wipes out
Everything you did it for.
all the things, and so we need to really concentrate and try and be our best. In all aspects of it, because the contract I see with the public is they expect to come here, park their car, go through the process, get on an airplane. They don't care who's doing what. If you fail in any one of those aspects, it's a fail.
And unfortunately, human nature is that people are more likely to comment if there's a complaint than a comment.
Yeah, you don't hear compliments. No news is good news. So.
No, I had the experience twice out here with the gates, getting all the way up to the gate and then having to do fun back out of the gate and whatever the universal, yeah, whatever the universal signal was to the guy in back of me to back up, I wasn't correct. So I reverted to another signal.
So we were looking at some of that signage as well, because to your point, it was on the kiosk, but by the time we get to the kiosk cars behind you, that's a challenge. So we put signage more out front where you make that turn to the left or to the right, which lot you're picking, that tells you the lot is closed. And that's part of what Sean was talking about. We want to also put under that signage that says it's closed. It's not closed for prepay or reservations. And that we're speaking to everybody and making sure that folks with reservations understand that they do have a space in this lot, but if you don't, then the lot is full.
We haven't run out of spaces yet, so I think we're through the busiest week. A lot of spaces opened up on Sunday when people return, so East Economy now's got plenty of space.
We recognize these are problems, but I think these are pretty good problems if you're gonna have them. The fact that the demand is there, and we just have to do our best to mitigate the demand and make sure we have that flexibility. And so that kind of gets to that on-demand option. If we need an overflow solution on a temporary basis, we can stand that up within a week's time and then set that up to where we have signage for QR codes and things like that.
The request is for a 6-month extension and then a 5-year renewal. Why are we doing that? In that order.
We can do a 5.5-year extension. I guess it's because the current lease, when we changed it from a concession agreement to a management agreement, was effective July 1st. So they've been running July 1 for their budgets. Now this is to clean it up, get back on the calendar year.
We made that change to accommodate during COVID. That's why we were accommodating to that. As we talk about garages and other things, does SP participate in building parking garage building owning and operating?
I can't think of the last garage as people have done. We participate in parking lots, we've done parking lots. So like the East County Drive project, and those are things we've taken on at other locations. I don't know that we did anything in the magnitude of the garage. But I can take that back and find out for sure.
Managed garages.
Yeah, I thought he meant like the capital expenses. That
There are other groups that do actually run the construction operation.
like oversee the construction of the garage or actually fund it.
Some will actually participate in construction. And then there is requirements that if they construct it, they have to operate it for a certain period.
I see. Yeah, like I can take that back and find out specifically the funding piece. You know, that's something we've done, but typically we do the feasibility, like we talked about, things of that nature. That's our involvement, making sure that the garage is what you're looking for. We were heavily involved in the Sioux Falls project, but not in the sense of funding or project management, so to speak.
It's just, we're exploring those options. Yeah. But if we were to enter into a five-year agreement with you, want to do that.
I don't know of any organizations, I'll say this much, that there's really a handful in the airport space, I'll say that much. Maybe there's some that do municipal garages and things like that. But we have a specific vertical just for airports, aviation. And a lot of the competitors don't even have that vertical that's specific to airports. Because we understand airports, we know airports. And I used to work with an airport, so I think that's the expertise and experience that you get with SP Plus from that sense. So it's you have to think about after the garage is built, where do you go from here? And I think that's where our expertise comes in at. Our competitors don't have solutions that are in your folder, and those are just a few that I feel were applicable or part of. So those are kind of some of the things where, from an operator standpoint, you may get the garage, but what are you going to get after that from an operator standpoint?
And there's a lot of smart sensors and that type of thing that are in parking garages.
Yeah, Park Assist, yes, we have a ton of those locations. New Orleans is the closest to me. But I have like 5 locations that have some type of parking guidance and Park Assist type system. Space counting solutions, all those different types of things. From an operator standpoint, there's nothing we hadn't touched or been exposed to. So we have those tools and resources that we can bring at the appropriate time when it fits.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would move we extend the contract for 5.5 years under the assumptions given and that Sean had stated. They have been a good partner through COVID and been with us through this process, and I think they've earned the right to be our partner for the next half decade.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
So I can assume if we were to move forward with the parking garage, that you will be our partner in that. And
Without question, yeah, we actually invited them forward to it, and want to be involved as much as you want us to be.
Well, and we're a little behind on this because we don't know if we would, if there'd be an appetite for a construct and operate option for us. But would this fall under that contract if there was a separate parking garage built?
Well, I guess my question would be, why would we have multiple operators?
We would have multiple operators if a group would come in and build it and operate it themselves. So there would be a separate ownership piece with that.
But separate, I
So
guess
that's-
separate ownership on the airport property?
The garage could be owned and operated, that you would see a group come in that would pay the capital cost and build the ramp and then also operate it. But would this preclude us from that? Like I said, this is very premature, other than identifying that there are groups that have done that type of thing.
Have we been approached, Mr. Chair, have we been approached by any of those groups?
I've been approached by one group.
Would love to meet them and talk to them. That'd be great. Are they local or
Yes.
is it the city of Fargo?
No.
Okay.
That was gonna be my question.
Well, I mean, it's,
No, and like I said, this is very preliminary. It's nowhere.
well, I guess then the next question, so we have someone interested in leasing the space to put a parking garage up and manage it on airport property. How does SP Plus feel about that?
That's, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Honestly, I think with that, you have to think about long-term sustainability. And I'm not opposed to, I think we speak about public-private partnership and stuff like that. And I've seen different models of those back again on the airport days when I had my airport health. There's opportunities where they come in and do that, build it for you, but they don't operate it. They just come in and build it and they look at the revenue stream attached to it so they can make sure that they recoup their investment. So that's one model that'll still work to where we still an operator and you still benefit from that expertise in the aviation space of running an airport, parking garage or parking lot or whatever the case may be. I think that's the model the board should kind of look towards. Just because again, you really gonna want to make sure you have somebody running it that has the airport expertise once it's built.
Well, and like I said, this is very preliminary, but if they're going to fund the construction, they're gonna have to figure out how to get the revenue out of the facility. I'm just curious, if we did this, our contract with SB would not preclude this. And like I said, it's very, very premature, very early. I don't know if Stacy on the line, if she can help us with that. Thinking it may make it a separate situation.
Yeah, that's kind of how I would envision it. It'd be because they would want to see the revenue from the parking, more of a lease than a management agreement, which is what we have. They wouldn't make the return they would be looking for on the management agreement like we have. So that's why I think you have the operator side of it. You have like everything from this capital investment through the revenue stream. If the airport had an appetite, or the board had an appetite to do something like that. But again, I'll still, regardless of the decision today, take this back to see if this is something that we haven't looked into in the past and get an answer back to Sean and the team, so we can get back to you guys either way. So, but I do think it would be a separate conversation based off of, building it and then operating it after it's built.
Okay.
Mr.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I guess I would be concerned about having two operators operating our parking facilities. That would be my first concern, having multiple operators.
I agree.
That to me is a,
Like I said, this is very, very premature. I just don't want to put us in a position that we take options off the table. And so it's very difficult to, it's very hypothetical, early concept type situations. When we are doing a 5-year term, it can have a longer term impact.
And also.
Chairman, may I say something?
Go ahead, Eric.
I would say let's make the best decision with the information we have today. And then if a unlikely scenario were to develop in the future, then we correct that decision and we move forward from there. But right now we don't have a competitor per se. We don't have a dual operation scenario going forward. We have SP Plus standing there doing a great job, and we make the best decision today with the information we have right now. That's my opinion.
I have another question.
Sure.
So the rate increase is 16% and then it increases 3% annually over 5 years. So in 5 years, we'll be at a 31% rate increase over December of 2023.
Right, but that's
Is-
in comparison to the management fee of, like, currently it's 13,000, going to 15.
It's 16,502.
Right, starting January of 2024. And the reason that is because of the East Economy lot. That's the sole reason for that 16% increase.
Okay.
That's additional spaces to manage over city, and that's the reason for that initial increase. And in the 3 years, it's the same increase that you're currently looking at right now in the current contract. None of that's changed. We didn't increase any of that.
So, Mr. Chair, so the increase was incremental based on spots?
Correct.
Yeah.
When we first entered into this agreement, there was a per spot space count that we looked at to manage. That same rate back then is the same rate today. None of that was increased. So if you have 363 spots you added in the East Economy lot, so that's the pro rata share portion of that. And so keep in mind, we currently aren't charging for that. We hadn't charged for it when we went online in November of last year. None of that's been included, but under the new agreement, it's just included in that.
So then if we would potentially add more spots in the next 5.5 years, then would you continue to manage at 16,000 or at this rate?
We would be good partners like we've always been. I just don't want to speak out of turn, but we didn't make any pivot or any changes in November when we came online, I think the day before Thanksgiving, with these kind of lot. We want to work with you guys, so we're happy to be here, we want to be here, so.
So, Mr. Chair, as an example, if we have almost 2,500 spots and we do build a ramp and there's a net of 750 spots or 700, whatever that number is, it would be fair to say they're probably due additional management fee at the time, but until that's done, it's supposition.
Yep.
Yeah, we wasn't gonna approach you guys and ask for any amendment just because you brought that lot on, but again, if we're gonna enter into a new, or extension, I should say, that's the only reason that's the.
Mr. Chair, I see that you had used 2494 approximately parking spaces and plus the East Economy lot. Did you also take in consideration the additional 160 that will gain from the exit plaza?
No, again, we looked at that as that was a part of the initial lot per se.
Okay.
Yes, we're striping in and adding spaces, but again, that's just part of being a good partner again. So that's, to your point, you know, we weren't gonna nickel and dime that way, so to speak. But yes, the East Economy lots, that was a totally separate detached structure with additional parks equipment that had to be manned, intercoms that had to be installed and things like that to oversee. That ultimately ties back to RMS. We did decide to add that in the extension request.
So does the 2494 include the 160
No,
that are coming? No?
No.
it does
Okay.
not. It includes, that was back when the exit lane or the exit plaza, the old exit plaza would have been there, so it does not include that.
So in theory, you're splitting the difference with the new East Economy, you just split the difference because
Yes, it is.
some of the spots we gain back and that's,
That's correct.
so really the increase is not proportional.
Correct.
It's half of the proportion because we'll gain those spots and they're not charging us additionally for them today.
Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second to extend the agreement with SB Plus for a period of 5.5 years, ending December 31st.
28, 29,
29th.
I think so, yeah.
We'll let Joan figure that out. Make sure it's correct.
The end of 28. December 31st, 2028.
Call the roll.
Singham,
Aye.
Lind. I see the thumbs up. Okay, Capitan,
Aye.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah,
Capitan.
Aye.
Heckman.
Aye.
Cosner.
No.
Thank you.
All right, parking lot exit plaza.
All right, Terry is on there, we'll probably have Greg a little bit as well, so it is open and taking vehicles, but Terry, why don't you give us the architectural update?
From an architectural perspective, we're just finishing up the exterior. We have had some weather delays. You can imagine how big these panels are, so when it's windy, it's difficult to put them up. They have made some significant progress in the last week. I'm not real sure when they'll be done again, weather pending, if the weather holds, I think it won't be going to be another week or so. There's a few issues with regards to the equipment, but I just got an email from Gretchen at Powers. She said it'll be done by the end of the month, so.
And
Darren and I are talking a little bit about some additional barrier along the wall of the building portion of the exit plaza. And so we're exploring some options with that. The bollards and stuff that we specified are all there, so the corner is safe. It's just we're concerned about, Darren had a really good point from the standpoint of, I do the same thing. You put your credit card in, you get your ticket, and the gate opens, and you start taking off, and at the same time, you're putting your credit card away. And just a little worried about if we bang into those metal panels. So we're looking at maybe some options to help with that.
so the west edge of the building, the wall is flush with the curb. So if you go through
It's about 6 inches back.
it's pretty close. So
It's too close.
it's like going through a drive-through at the bank. You gotta pay attention, and if the drive-through at the bank has ice build up and heaves, you slide into you gotta watch what you're doing. Darren and Terry, they're talking about some type of a bollard or a guardrail or something to keep them from going into that siding. Hopefully I have an answer on that soon. The other part is, we talked at some meetings ago about the signage. So because of SP Plus's buying power, they went to Daktronics to buy the signage. We hired Indigo to install that signs. I don't know, Gregory, it's probably another 2-3 weeks away.
No, it's a little longer than that. The lead time was a little better through us because we're a preferred partner with Daktronics. So to Sean's point, we actually got a better price point through our being preferred partner with Daktronics. We're probably looking at about another 2 months to be exact on delivery. Yeah.
These are the signs as you exit the plaza that, show that, green arrow or X, it's closed. It's some of the signage that you've seen on some of the
And
drawings.
this is the Lind parking facility signage?
Correct. We'll get a new picture, Eric, when we get back. So, it just lets you know that there's more signage coming, it just takes a while.
I have a question, Terry. When did we initially break ground on the parking plaza?
It was last spring sometime. I'm not sure if I have a date in front of me to tell you, but we're, theoretically, we were hoping to be done sometime in January. We had a lot of weather issues. We had a few COVID kind of related things, but not that many.
How long did the CO take, the certificate of occupancy?
Do you know if,
Yeah, I'm not sure if the CO was probably, from when we, at the end when we thought, I believe it was about a week off. So evidently right now, somebody is flying in or driving in with a piece of equipment that I think they thought Flash had, but they didn't. And so somebody from SP Plus is coming in with a piece of equipment to make the system work better. We ended up putting in conduits new conduits to all the areas, and about half of those ended up freezing up. Now, the only thing that was for an upgrade in their kind of wiring system. I think they were upgrading to a maybe Cat 6 or something like that. And so that will have to be done once they thaw out. But that was an upgrade, and the system still works without it.
Okay.
Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, I just have a question about a seed to plant. I don't know how it would work for function, but in all of our discussions, electric vehicle preparation is beginning to be a topic. And whatever that all means, so if you put that on, if it isn't already on your checklist, make sure it maybe is and done in advance.
I believe it will be part of the design.
For a garage or?
Well,
Yeah, we did actually assist with that as well.
We have done some checking on that, I believe, in terms of planning for that in the future. I know we've done that.
we also have the need for rental cars too.
At some point, I spoke with the enterprise representative yesterday, and they're still, I think they're a couple years away from, anything in a rental car fleet, at least with Enterprise or National Alamo. The state grant that was received or is in the process of being received, they tried to qualify the airport in that grant. You had to be a 1 mile driving distance from the interstate, and we were a little over that along with the Fargo Dome. I don't know if the state was able to get an airport location on there. Initially, they were talking about putting something up on County Road 20 by the city's wastewater plant, but that doesn't qualify because there's no concessions or restrooms readily available. But the problem with putting them in like the parking lot is that you don't want someone connected to it and then leave on a trip through.
Yeah.
It has to be in an area where you're there for 20, 30 minutes and you move on. It's something that we could have Jeff amend into the West Exit Plaza removal project that we're going to be doing this summer, in paving those extra 160 spaces, if that's something that you want him to amend into that contract to provide 1 or 2 charging stations. That's certainly something we can do. I know City Hall has, is it 1 or 2, Commissioner?
Yeah.
And there's so much per minute or whatever that you pay to use it. We can look into that. It's just a matter of where should it be placed.
The most important thing, maybe not, but is to get the infrastructure proactively as you're constructing and designing, so later on you are able to, if you choose to, when you choose to. Whatever that means.
Yeah, just be the conduit available.
So we could look into that with Jeff and Joel Caff and see if there's something we can do in the project that's underway now for the long-term parking lot project this summer.
Personally, I think it'd be great for people coming and going and they're waiting 20 minutes. They have a spot they can get their car charged for half an hour while they're there, and you don't want to take a parking spot or a parking ramp spot where they leave for 3 weeks.
Correct.
But if you could have it, work it into your flow of people coming and going, and Eric has an EV, I think, doesn't he?
Yes.
That might be an idea in the cell
Yes, I
phone.
do.
Cell phone park.
Well, that's
So
something.
John, I had proposed a long time ago that we put, just regular 110 wall outlets on like the exterior of the parking area. So it would be more of it's a slow charge. It's a trickle charge. It takes days to fill your car. But I think that is more in line with our current parking system. Like if we're going to put it in a long-term lot, we just put regular 110 outlets in. And I think that would establish the infrastructure that you're kind of talking about, and then have any fast charger like the Type 3 chargers that go rapid and quick, and put that somewhere else in a waiting area or something close to the terminal. But just my thoughts.
Any other discussion? As we look at projects, construction projects, the question will always remain time to completion and penalties for not completing. one I think we continue to wrestle with. If we include penalties for late completion, does that get added into the cost of the project? And if you don't, and then have the delay, what's that? It's a tough one. Go both directions. Anything else there? Hopefully, as the weather gets nicer in July, be able to park a little bit easier out here. But anything we can do to improve, it's such a flashpoint for the public. Really, I sympathize, because if you are trying to catch a flight and there is not parking, you're driving your car, what do? Do you just say, well, I'll park it here, and they tow it? There is no other alternative to parking anywhere. And so it's very frustrating very quick for me. Whatever we can do to improve that. All right, number 8, meet and hunt. We've got more pictures.
Brandon is on.
Brandon's on.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So we do have some pretty pictures to show you today. I'm just going to do a quick overview, and then we'll jump into the renderings that you're looking at. But of the 4-phase process, the last meeting I mentioned, we're wrapping up, and we are there. We wrapped up the schematic design phase. Next, we have design development we're moving into, and then construction documents, and then into bidding. So schematic design drawings and the design report was sent to the FAA and the NDAC for review, and then hard copies will be showing up at the airport this week. The RFP for the CMAR services was posted yesterday, and we'll receive proposals on that in April 21st. We've already received a lot of interest, so this is great. We expect some good participation. And then interviews will be May 3rd. May 9th, we'll update the board on where we're heading and what we've narrowed them down to. And then the May 28th, we'd be looking for a contract approval. So that's the timeline for the CMAR process. So now as I mentioned, we're transitioning into the next phase of the design process, design development. This phase will be working through the arranged spaces with user groups to coordinate the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And the engineers will start the calculation, sizing the equipment, conducting more detailed daylighting studies and body carbon analysis, building energy analysis, things of that sort. And one of the first things you'll see on the March 28th board meeting, I mentioned the last time, we'll have an in-person interiors work session in which we'll have mood boards, initial furniture layouts, and some sketch renderings, interior sketch renderings to get feedback and comments on. Paula, thanks for sending that email on some of your insights. This is great timing for that. So I know our interior designer had responded to you, and they're going to incorporate that into some of the selections and tailor their presentation to respond to some of those images that you gave us. So thanks for that. And then in the boardroom, you should see some renderings, some large renderings on poster boards, along with a packet in front of you. And I think there's 9 renderings altogether illustrating the exterior from numerous perspectives and seasons. So Brett Berry is with us today. He's our project architect and designer and has been along on this project about almost as long as I have been here through the study. He was here on the study and now has been part of transitioning into actually the design piece of it. And I believe he actually worked at the airport when he went to college there. So he actually does have a history there at the airport as well. So he is going to walk through these renderings with you, and then at the end, if you have any questions, just feel free to. We'll open the floor up for that.
Are you gonna be able to share your screen?
Yeah. Yes. Darren, if you, yeah, if possible. Yeah. Yeah. Did you see that?
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thanks for the intro, Brandon. This is a really exciting project. Yeah, as you mentioned, I've got a vested interest personally here with the college in Fargo, and coincidentally worked at the airport for about a year, just kind of getting a peek at the operations, and did a little jack of all trades for Delta there. So
you work for Delta. Thank you.
Yeah. We dipped into, it's like cross trains. We dipped into a lot of different, gate work, baggage, and that back of house, all of that stuff. Even moved some airplanes around. The Ron airplanes, and so it was fun. It was a very cool experience, but purely coincidental, and went into the field of architecture and fell into the market of aviation, and then kind of came full circle to working here at Fargo. So that's pretty awesome. So very interested here in this project. Want this to be fantastic and a very successful project. So we welcome any dialogue and feedback throughout this process, just to continue to shape this thing positively. So I have the entry drive view to start with. You have all these same images. I'm just going to be skipping around a little bit. I'm just on page 4 here at the entry drive view. Because I wanted to touch a little bit on what we see today there at the airport. You're familiar, obviously, but it's a missed opportunity, I think, back in the 80s on this front arrival experience, where we have some static things going on. There's no transparency, there's no activity. It's pretty static there with that front wall being just a blank wall there, and the parking lot and the canopy. So I think the direction, and I think it's a super cool opportunity that we're expanding ticketing here, because we can reshape this front arrival experience into something that's super open, welcoming. You're in your car coming down the entry drive, and you can see a buzz of passenger activity before you even get to the parking lot. So I think that generates some excitement for travel, and feel like you've arrived, and there's a iconic nature to this end node, the ticketing. Getting back to when we did our visual preference survey, that there were some points here that we've been trying to hit on as we're designing. So this, people clearly wanted to have something beautiful, recognizable, and photogenic above all else. They found things like dynamic and iconic as being descriptors of the new terminal expansion. So I think that's what we're headed towards with this new terminal expansion, and just zooming into this front piece in particular. This was an area of focus for us. We did a lot of iterations of this, because it's kind of the juncture between old and new, and it's finding that formal transition into the new architecture without kind of ignoring what's there. We go to the zoomed out view of the site here, looking northeast. We were working with this tilted wall,
that was facing south, and we found a lot of challenges with that. You've experienced that, the solar orientation, the harsh sunlight coming in. So we've transitioned as a first step to go to a vertical glass with a deep overhang above, and beyond that, we're looking at potentially electrochromic glazing there, which is also referred to as smart glass. There's a company called Sage Glass that we're beginning to look into to control some tinting for that glass, where you guys won't experience the glare. And so this piece of architecture really shaped a lot of, started to shape a lot of what we're doing everywhere else. We can see the large mass over here to the east is the third level admin space with views to the airfield or at the administration, so they can monitor things like the operations, if there's any safety issues going on in the airfield. It's just a visible location, which is very valuable. And then the conference room is now on the south side of that, accessible from the parking lot there directly up the elevator. I'm just rotating here to see the airside view of that. And another big important factor that we heard from folks was that airfield views was a top priority. Of course, concessions was like the number one, making sure that everyone's fed and happy and comfortable seating. But airside views is something we're trying to maximize with this design, and also bringing in some fun and playful elements. We're using wood structure throughout this new design above the utility space anyway. And you can see some of that triangulated bracing that we'll expose, and I think that relates back to some of the triangulated steel structure that's there in the terminal today, but offers a level of warmth with the wood tones. Just heading back to the winter scene, and one point I want to touch on quickly is, the nature of Fargo is that it's a cool place. It's cold. You get the snow, but I think it's contrasted by just the community, the warmth that you find there. It's a great place to be, and I think this image in particular kind of relates to that, where there's that warmth that you see, that buzz of pasture activity, and this sort of shelter form. This is just another view of the south here, but we're thinking about things like parking right now, some placeholders for different elements. We've got our logistics receiving area bundled with that administrative mass. Thinking about passengers coming from the parking area to the admin and to the terminal, providing a path for semi-trucks and trucks to enter the receiving area. So those are all in development. And here's another view just of that admin sort of receiving piece, where we've got, currently we have the ability to have a front door drop off to the admin, as we have a one-way circulation piece here. We'll try to preserve that throughout the design if we can, but also opening up a lot of green spaces. And we want to be mindful of maintenance and all that, so we're talking about native species, low to no maintenance for the plantings. It looks like there's last two images here. This is just a fun view of the air side. Just, I think, highlighting the amount of activity you're going to be able to see from the terminal passenger lounges. It's going to be just open and exciting, and for families and kids and everyone to just see what's going on.
So is there glass on the south side of that, from the south view? I see the north side, there's glass, but.
Yeah.
Is it, it is glass, okay.
Yeah, there's going to be some utility spaces on the south side here, like the restroom block and some of the electrical room and some other utility rooms here that will have less glazing on, but we'll still look for additional opportunities beyond what we're showing here, just to bring in some natural light, especially the bathrooms and things like that.
So we talked wood structure throughout the facility. You're not including the tech concourse, the first floor. Is that all metal structure or concrete?
Yeah, for the base and the floor of the concourse, it'll all be concrete and steel.
Okay.
And the walls, we will be looking at precast concrete. We did reach out to Stroh's office just to get a local feel of masonry in the area because we consider doing masonry block. But it sounded like the laborers are getting fewer and fewer, and so we're thinking it makes sense to go down the panelized path. That's quickly, it constructs very quickly as well, as it's very controlled and available. But wood above that, timber columns, timber bracing, and cross-laminated timber decking is the thought here.
Does that include the third floor as well?
It does, yeah.
And then, Sean, you had brought up a question, initial thoughts on any exterior. We have some areas where it look, an exterior would look, and we sent on a link to the material Brett is looking at for like the soffit area, and then some of the horizontal slats on the shown over by the admin and loading dock area. That's like an anodized aluminum product, so to provide a wood look. So it is a zero maintenance product. It would be very similar to how you would maintain aluminum.
Thank you. Well, this is the path we're going down, I guess, so speak now or forever hold your peace.
Questions, comments?
My biggest question, I
I have
think,
commented, if I may, Mr.
he's gonna already say it. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Eric.
Okay, so I wrote that email to the other board members, and I'm just going to share. Would you mind, whoever's running the computer, would you go back to like the second view, looking at the airplanes on the ramp from the north, looking south? There we go. And pull that picture up. I think it's the second one in mine. So a big part of the reason why we're doing this is because we need to reconstruct concrete on the west side of the airport, and we have to take some gates out of service to facilitate that. And so we're building the new gates so that we can take the old gates down temporarily. So what I look at when I look at this picture, I said, hey, where are we going in the future? In 20 more years, when we have to add more gate space again, where do we go? And I would just assume that we're going to probably go east again. And so I look at this picture and I say, to add to the east, we're going to have to take 3 gates out of service again, which is probably not going to be feasible. So is there a way that we can, I really, really like the way it all looks and everything like that. I'm just worried about going forward in the future. How do we add going east by only maybe taking 1 gate out, building it so that we don't have those 2 gates on the very tippy corner, on that northeast corner, and make it so that when we start doing construction east again, we only have to take 1 gate out of service instead of 3. Does that seem feasible?
Eric, actually, Mr. Sean, the master plan that we talked about and developed has the next phase going to the north, straight out through where the checkpoint is now. You certainly can go east, but the focus was, at least when the master plan was developed, was to go north.
Sure, that would cut off those gates to the west and to the two that come right out of the checkpoint right now. So I'm just looking at and saying, how do we naturally add more gates without having to, devastate our daily operation?
Yeah, that's a good question, Eric. And yeah, to Sean's point, where you would be the next phase of the master plan, and not locked into that, but that is the idea that you would go to the north. Logistically, you would have to figure out how you would get that north addition. Likely have to take down for a period of time a couple gates. And I don't know if there's really any way around that while you're trying to maximize the surface area on the air side for gate and operational use. You at the same time you want to mitigate the operation. It's a balance, and we were able to work through it on this project and come up with solutions. And it's going to be the same process for the future as well, figuring out how you can do that by mitigating operations. I know that doesn't answer your question, but it's
not a great answer, but it's an answer. And I would just charge you and say, and I would task you and say, do the very best that we can to make this construction and minimize operations going forward. That's all.
Yeah.
Minimize the effect on operations. That's probably what it meant.
We hope to be busier in the future, and that's a good point, right? Trying to mitigate that to create as little of inconvenience for the customers as well as the airlines is key. I know taking 2 gates out of service for a north expansion, there would be some growing pains with that. I'm guessing they would have to take at least 2 gates out of service with an east expansion as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
And maybe it would make sense to, just off the cuff here, with that north expansion in doing an east-west half on the north expansion to mitigate. So anytime you do that, anytime you phase projects, it adds cost, and it's not, you don't get material value out of that. You get operational advantage. So in the end, as you know, when it's all said and done, the product's going to look the same as if you just handed it over and gave them all the space and absorbed all the operational struggles, or if you phased it and mitigated the operational struggles. So you really need to evaluate, like, does it offset does it offset the cost of having to disrupt operations by being able to use that towards your building cost and putting nicer finishes or things of that sort. But I see opportunities there on the north side to where you may be able to just take down 1 gate and do a east-west half north expansion. A lot is going to depend on how restriping and how you can redirect the airport, the airplane traffic too.
Last question: where was the outside patio? Did that fall out of the plan?
That is not off the table yet. We really want to see where we come in at cost the first time around, but there's still a possibility for it. When you bring out an outside patio, there's just a cost in creating a paver, safety rail systems, and then logistics on security on coming in and out. So let's see where the costs come in at schematic design, and then we can review the patio idea.
When you say patio, are you thinking for the administrative offices so that they've got a patio, or something that for passengers? Okay, so I did include 2
Yeah,
pictures.
just like a passenger lounge outside.
Brandon,
Okay.
Brandon, in the pictures that I
Okay.
sent you, I did
Good.
include 2 pictures, one of JFK and one of LAX, that both have outdoor patios, and they have tall, in the passenger area, they have tall glass walls to enclose it,
Okay.
just FYI.
Okay, yeah, we'll take a look at that. Eric, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. For some reason, I was thinking that that patio was going to be off the third floor admin space. We'll take a look at that patio space off the concourse and see where that opportunity might lie. That little more expense there. So again, let's see where the schematic budget lies, and then we'll continue that discussion. Maybe it's an alternate that we continue with if the airport wants to.
I have a question regarding, we were just talking about traffic, and we're probably more thinking about airplane traffic, and I'm thinking about, as far as the future of our airport and as our enplanements and air traffic and everything continues, passenger traffic, we only have 3 lanes in front of is it 3 lanes in front of the airport? 4? I'm wondering if we need to think about adding another lane or 2 as we have more Uber traffic, and particularly since we only have 1 level for both arrivals and departures, sometimes it gets to be a bottleneck right now, and we're thinking about pretty much doubling the size of our airport. Especially if
Right now, the traffic lane through there is not part of the scope, and I would have to look back at the study to see if we. I don't think we had a study included in the traffic running through that, but I think that would be that would probably be the first step, is to really see what pinpoint where the bottlenecks are, and what to steer us towards what solutions would be viable.
Because there's a lot of handicap parking right in front, as it should be, then like oftentimes hotel vans, people just stop. And then the far lane is sometimes where the taxis sit, and so then you're kind of left with 1 lane to get through, because you've got handicap parking, vans, and people stopping, the traffic lane, and then taxis and Ubers over on the left side. And so I
Mr.
only
Chair.
anticipate trafficking.
I think the setback between the lanes and short-term parking is a big enough buffer to use. I don't see that as an issue. If we have space there,
If we could,
Yeah,
if we need
I
to.
think we do. I don't think that's an issue.
For lane extension.
Any other discussion?
I'm gonna take off on Eric Lynn's letter he wrote to you as well. I'm really visual, and I don't know what the future's gonna be, but I need to see what the parking ramp will look like and where it's gonna be early. I don't wanna later on go, oh gosh, we didn't anticipate this big tall structure that's gonna put a shadow over the airport that's there now. But I need to see that at some point, so we know what we're aiming for and not be surprised.
Yeah, Terry's working on that right now, so we're collaborating with Terry and sharing this model with the model of the parking ramp, to see how, from those different perspectives, because that's very important to us. As Brett noted, as you're approaching approaching the drop-off area and this addition, yeah, we don't wanna, we wanna minimize the obstruction of that view. How is the skywalk gonna connect and interact with this? So, that is in development, and, we're working on that.
We should actually have something by the end of the week. So we've been noodling now again. This is in conjunction with Walker Parking, and it is a very preliminary study on the project. So it's a net 500 stall parking ramp that basically is over the top of the short-term parking. I actually have some preliminary views of it, but I don't want to show them until we have, we're not rendering it to this degree just because at the time that we did it, we didn't have, this is the first, I haven't seen this before. And we can certainly continue to do that. So, but yeah, that's what we're trying to achieve, is not only just like the views that Brent's got here, we're doing views that would indicate how you would drive up and what you would see and you know, that kind of thing. And so, yeah, so I'm not showing it because right now it's reasonably blocky, but at the same token, it's really Walker's presentation, not mine, so.
And if I might continue, I don't know, I've heard it could be 4 or 5 stories tall, I don't know. But my last question is that the only location it can go? I would have anticipated a parking ramp would be on the very west end and butt up to the corner. But I don't know, again, I don't know that I would put a parking ramp right in the front. I don't know if that's where I'd put it.
It's 3 stories tall.
Okay. And that's the only location it can go?
I haven't been involved in designing it with Walker,
That's what's planned.
parking.
Yeah, I know, but to extend the walkway has to come out.
Just read what I highlighted there.
The process with Walker, remember, we entered into a joint project with the city of Fargo and the Airport Authority each paid for half of that study. And Sean, I think the preliminary study is ready. Did we make that available to our, so you'll be receiving that. There will be a meeting, I believe it's Friday, and we'll start to see some of those, you know, some of that visual as to where we go. Hopefully with that project, the pre-design phase, we'll start to give a magnitude of scope on expense and what could be done. But it certainly would be nice to roll these projects together if there were going to be a parking ramp.
That meeting is this Friday?
This Friday, yeah. We've got a working committee that has met previously, and I think they sent out the initial draft of that. Beyond this, I'm not sure where it will go. If that committee will say, okay, pass it on back to the Airport Authority and figure out if there's a program to pay for it or what. It's this Friday,
9 a.m. I think.
Yep. Anybody that would want to come to that.
Who's on that committee?
I don't think we can
I
come.
represent the city and the mayor.
Like anybody that can come but me and Jim.
What's that?
Well,
Because then you got more than 3 of us in a room.
If there were other people that want to come and
So?
required notice for open
All you have to
meeting,
do is send out a notice.
Yeah, we just send out a notice.
That's all you have to do.
Yep. So if you want to come, let Kimber know or anyone of us. We have to send out a notice.
Probably have to ask them. I don't know.
I Commissioner Strand, I don't.
If you end up with a quorum, then we'll just notice it.
Yeah.
But no, decide in advance if there's gonna be a quorum or not.
But then be prepared for the meeting.
I think we're kind of beyond that.
We do that at the county all the time, just send out a notice, there may be a quorum present at this meeting.
Especially if you're gonna attend. If you're not gonna attend, there's no reason to. But if you are gonna attend, yes.
Not a problem. Okay.
All right. Well, if there's any other questions, please take these packets with you. We also have electronic copies. As you're looking through them, any other questions come up, you think of anything else, please just reach out to me or through Sean or however you feel comfortable, let us know. Like I said, we'll be back around March 28th to see you again. We'll be in person along with our interior design group, and we will be talking about interiors, but we are here to talk about any piece of the project with you.
Okay, item number 9, just for your thrilling reading, you have a chance to read the purchasing policy. This one had been approved from 2021. And just as a matter of governance for the board, I like to include these policies that they're reviewed at this point. We can note that we did review the policies here. This one is pretty extensive. I don't know if there's any questions there, but the summary table probably at the end is the easiest. We do have to be very cautious within our purchasing policy. We follow it and do not get challenged on it. Purchasing policies are interesting in that enforcement is typically from a protest from a non-successful bidder, which can really slow down and cause a lot of confusion with the policy there. So there is the one table there, kind of watch, it steps up. Sean has purchasing authority to the first tier, and we can designate that to the next tier, and Sean then becomes notification, working through each level. Sean, the only thing I would ask you is that the federal and state requirements sometimes change, that we just make sure that we're within the dollar amount guidelines. Typically,
That was my question, has the century code changed at all, that has increased any of this stuff?
I don't believe so. Stacy can take a look, but not to my knowledge, anything has changed with Century Code.
that is,
I looked at this not so long ago, and it has not changed.
the problem is, as things get more expensive, you really don't want to have to be chasing a lot of paperwork for smaller purchases. Repetitive small purchases are ones that sometimes are protested. It's just to educate ourselves and have a brief discussion about it. We can know what the policy that we reviewed at this time. We're just going to keep pulling these out and looking at them as we go.
I think our auditors would agree, don't make it complicated.
No.
Because if you see the trap, they gotta check it.
It's the old KISS method.
Yeah. So simple is much easier.
Keep it simple, stupid.
All right, construction and security update.
We're good. I don't think there's anything to add.
Nothing?
Yeah, I guess I'll keep it real quick. One thing is the South GA project will advertise for bid tomorrow. So send that out to bid. I talked to Holcomb, who's a cement supplier in the area. They assured me that there's enough cement product for the project. Because they said they're starting to run a little bit. Next week, the 22nd, we're targeting for the advertisement date for the long-term parking lot. And then 21st is the bid opening for gate number 4, just the replacement of 4 meters. So that's it.
Anything else? One other item is we can, I think, go through this tight time, parking, snow. 2 weeks from now, we again just have a discussion about parking, just, so we're paying attention to what's happening there. It's a no-win situation at times, but I think we just need to make sure we're paying attention. What our policies are, and if there's any place we can figure out to park. Maybe somebody wants to do ballet.
Just a thought, but if we have a really sort of sudden melt, is there anything the airport needs to, is there anything we need to convene for? Or is it pretty routine business when there's a spring melt and potential flood for the airport?
Nothing whatsoever.
Okay, good to know. I don't know, but I'm afraid we're gonna have a melt where it all hits at once.
With the new flood levee that's north of here, that should keep all the water.
Okay.
Everything goes into drain 27, I believe.
As far as you mentioned valet, I mean, it's great. We have talked about that. That is a service that they do provide, just if there's enough demand for it. So it does afford the airport the opportunity to stack a lot of cars in a very small space when they do the valet. But if that's something that you're interested in, they can certainly make a proposal to do that. Some airports have done it, gone away because it wasn't popular. Finding staff to staff the valet is a real issue. I know Sanford tries to do it, and it's there today, not tomorrow.
Have we been totally out of parking at any point yet?
No.
Okay, so maybe, and this is just trying to get, for the person that flies once a year, it's hard to get the information to them, but it's a real panic feeling that you got a flight to catch, and about all you could look at from, if this is full, is parking at the Fargo Dome and a quick little hour-and-a-half walk into the wind. So I don't, we really don't have a good alternative there, so any type of information that could help passengers understand.
We do it through signage, social media, and if you choose
Oh, no,
not to
I-
read those things, I mean, we
Yeah.
do. And especially as you come up here, the interaction with the SD Plus staff to direct them. Our overflow lot is still at the northeast corner of the employee lot over by the tower. We thought we'd have to use that last weekend, we didn't. So we still had enough spaces, so.
No, it's just trying to help the occasional user of the facility navigate what they're going to do.
Is there any way the airports?
People will call in advance
Yeah.
and live, 2 hours away, what should we do?
Call, engage the security guard. It's like,
We all get texts and updates from the airlines. Can we somehow partner with them and add to their constant communications to their people flying? They might add a note in there, by the way, just so you know, check this link for parking. There may, but we get that all the time with our airline we fly with when you travel.
Right, so part of that really is getting more exposure to the pre-book / reservation system. Once you're in that system, we communicate with you in some shape or fashion. The problem is, to your point, it's the once a year traveler that doesn't do that or doesn't do that. So we just really need to get more exposure to the pre-book. The more people plan ahead, the more we know what's coming in each day, but also it mitigates their concern about not having a space when they arrive at the airport.
And people like me that aren't on social media.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of people that aren't.
Well, it's a panic situation too, right? It's, your vacation is looming before you. You're just worried about everything.
But to Sean's point, we did discuss ballet, and that's something we'll actually include as an alternative part of the fiscal budget, so to speak.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Sure. Go ahead, Eric.
Sean, when are we planning to pave the existing exit plaza area and make and capitalize on those new spots. Is that this year?
Yes, that goes out to bid on the 22nd of March. So advertise for 3 weeks and we'll
Okay.
open bids, we'll award that contract, assuming it's in line with the estimate in April. And they will be able to start, I'm guessing it's probably a July start, they typically when they do asphalt paving.
Okay, so we're gonna capitalize better than 150 additional spaces right now. Again, when we look forward into the future, if we do end up, we'll always need more parking. So if we do go forward with a new parking ramp of some sort, we're going to lose spaces in the interim in the construction phase. And I think the only way that we're going to be able to function for the construction time is to pave on the south side of our current brand new exit plaza on the other side of the road. So the kind of the question is, do we approach that sooner and just pave a parking spot on the south side because we know we're going to have to use it in the future, and we know we're going to have to do it if we do a parking ramp? Do we throw that in the hopper this year and make it a twofer kind of thing?
I don't think it would actually be a paved lot, Eric. I think it's gonna be a crushed concrete, temporary type deal. We did prepare the sub base for that some years ago, south of the crossover road, south of the current exit plaza. But because of the runway protection zone for runway 1-3, there's only a certain portion of that can be used, which is the Westport. But that would be a very temporary crushed concrete area. I would not favor support spending money for asphalt. And then we would also then have to set up a shuttle service if we get to that point. So we've already got that plan in place. It's just a matter of when would we do it and then put those materials in there.
We can create a new reality show, Ice Road Parking.
It's interesting. I just, I think we're going to have to use it eventually anyway. How long is the construction process for a ramp? It's got to be more than a year. So,
Yeah.
anyways.
Yep, no, exactly.
Yep, absolutely. All right, anything else?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I remind people that a year and a half ago, there was nothing going on here. And we've come a long way, and the employees here have been great. And so as much as we want to grow, we have to look back and remember that they were here maintaining something for us so it can grow. I think we lose sight of that many times.
Thank you.
And just to add to that, like, the amazing job that Fargo has done, and Sean, that you've done in increasing the number of airlines that come and serve Fargo and the destinations. Like when I started hanging out at the airport in 1991, we had Northwest going to Minneapolis. So we've come a long ways, and I think the future's bright for our region and for our airport as far as continuing to grow. And I just want to be prepared adequately for that situation, so.
So Senate Bill 2330 is being heard at 10 o'clock this morning. That's the one that impacts our ability to get the $40 million loan from the state. So I put in a testimony this morning. The Airport Association is testifying this morning, along with, I think the city of Fargo has an opposition to it. It really changes the scope of the legacy loan, the revolving loan fund.
Pull some money back from it.
Yeah, so they say our application is in, they have $13 million left, but yet there's this thing out there that nobody's borrowed any of the money. Well, it's pretty much all gone, so I'm not quite sure where that confusion is in the legislature, through the Chamber of Privacy Group, and of course through the Airport Association and OMNI. They're doing everything they can to try and educate people that this is a fund that's needed. So without that ability to borrow employees only at 2% for 30 years really increases the cost of our terminal expansion project significantly, because we go into the bond market or municipal leasing. So that hearing, like I say, at 10 o'clock, I think it was 40-3 or something on the Senate side to change it, to reduce it, maybe eliminate funding for the revolving loan fund. Now it's on the House side, so we'll see what happens. But you can tune in at 10 o'clock if you want to see the discussion.
Well, hopefully it's in the sponsors were thinking it was an unused program. Maybe not at this point, but you never know. And perhaps there's other ways. There are some other financing techniques we'd have to explore, see where we go.
I believe the bank in North Dakota is gonna testify in opposition to it today, which we'll see if that happens, so maybe that'll send a message.
And then one more question, so the private company that said they were interested in, with the parking garage, are you gonna discuss that at your meeting on Friday? Or are we gonna discuss it at our next meeting?
What I'd like to do with them was an informal conversation.
Okay.
And I would, after we meet on Friday, we get the pre-design, which is something they said that would help them. We'd invite them to come and do a presentation as part of the sort of fact finding. We'd just see where they want to go with this. Like I said, it's easy to look and say, oh, we could do that. It's a whole other thing when you see what the pre-design looks like, what the costs that are anticipated in that pre-design would look like, and whether it becomes feasible for them to do it. Certainly, would like to invite them just to have that opportunity to see what options there.
Mr. Chairman, I would assume you're communicating with the mayor. I would ask that you are, and I assume you are, that I believe you have an appointment coming up, a renewal of Eric's position is coming up. So if you please be communicating with the mayor proactively on that as well.
Yep.
I don't know the timeline, I think it's April.
Yep, I think it's right on top of this. All right, we'll talk with the mayor. And like I said, if you want to come Friday, just let us know.
I'm curious about that too.
Yeah. Do you want to come Friday to the meeting there?
I would love to. I'll be predisposed though. I apologize. I can't be there.
All right. Meeting adjourned.